Happy Saturday night. It is October the 8th. October is in full swing. It's 31 days of horror and hope you are having a great weekend. Appreciate you joining tonight. We're going to be on here for under an hour. We're going to keep it short and sweet, but I wanted to come on here and share with you my thoughts on a recent 4K release of a film that is pretty near and dear to my heart. It's one of my favorite horror films from back in the day. And it is none other than the 1985 film Fright Night, directed by Tom Holland. Now, this is the 1985 film directed by Tom Holland. Of course, this is Tom Holland, the filmmaker, not to be confused with, of course, the MCU's Tom Holland, Spider-Man, Peter Parker. Of course, he wasn't even born when this film came out. So this is Tom Holland, the filmmaker, directing this incredible or this really fun and energetic horror film, Fright Night. Now, Tom Holland, of course, directed this film, but of course, he was not new to horror when he directed this film. He also directed the first Child's Play film, which I've told people on social media that Child's Play is one of those franchises that I have not yet gotten into. So I've told people, look, I've got to get caught up on this whole Chucky thing, this whole Chucky verse thing, because I am not familiar with those films. I just know that there's this weird looking Chucky doll, and I think the doll kills people somehow. So anyway, I'm showing my Chucky and Child's Play ignorance here. So I don't know much about that franchise, but I do need to start watching it. So Tom Holland directed the first Child's Play film, and he also wrote the sequel to Psycho. Of course, the original Psycho film from Alfred Hitchcock came out in 1960, but it spawned several excellent sequels that aired in the 1980s. Of course, Anthony Perkins reprised his role as Norman Bates in those films, and those are some really good sequels to check out, the Psycho sequels. And Tom Holland wrote the first sequel to Psycho. So a little interesting note there about Tom Holland, the director. But let me know in the comments section, what you guys think of this film, of this movie. Fright Night is just one of those films that I really enjoyed watching when I was younger, coming up. It's just one of those horror films that really spoke to me. And it's a fairly simple tale. It's about a vampire next door. Imagine being a teenager and realizing that this new neighbor that has moved in next door is a vampire, and what you would do. And of course, just telling people about it and no one believing you. That is exactly the situation that William Ragsdale's character, Charlie Brewster, finds himself in this movie. But let me check out the comment section here real quick. Of course, we have Adrian here saying hello. Hello, Adrian. Hope you're doing well and everything. But yeah, let me just take a few minutes here to just share with you what this package looks like. Of course, this is a steel book here from Best Buy. You have your J card here, which shows you all the features. But on this steel book, what you have, oh my goodness, my 4K disc just fell out. But you see here the front and the back of the steel book. Look at that wonderful art. This is the classic art from the actual poster. And then this, of course, is Jerry the vampire. This cast is excellent for this film. This cast really makes this film a lot of fun. Of course, you have Chris Sarandon, who plays Jerry. He plays the mysterious man who moves in next door to the Brewster's house. And of course, he's a vampire. And it's just a fantastic cat and mouse game between Jerry, played by Chris Sarandon, and William Ragsdale, who plays a teenager who lives next door named Charlie Brewster. Charlie Brewster's girlfriend is played by Amanda Bierce. She plays Amy. So you have Charlie Brewster and Amy, their boyfriend and girlfriend. Their relationship is sort of up and down. And when this new vampire moves in next door, it sort of creates a wedge between Charlie and Amy, because he is absolutely engrossed in trying to figure out what's going on with this man next door, and is he a vampire, and is he a danger, and just investigating that whole situation. And that creates a bit of a wedge between him and Amy. But I really enjoyed Charlie Brewster as a character, as well as Amy as a character. And Stephen Jeffries plays Evil Ed in this film, which, he's the friend of Charlie Brewster, and they sort of cut up, in high school. But Roddy McDowall, the late, great Roddy McDowall, he plays Peter Vincent, the great vampire killer in this movie, and really enjoyed his part in this film as well. And this film is a combination between horror, a little bit of thriller element, a little bit of suspense, but it's really more of a horror comedy. I wouldn't say there's much in the way of suspense in this movie because you pretty much know from the get-go that Jerry next door is a vampire. And it's really more of the comedy of Charlie Brewster trying to convince others around him that Jerry is indeed a vampire. And I think that's part of the fun of this movie and the interaction between, him and Amy and Stephen Jeffries' character, Evil Ed, and Roddy McDowall, the great vampire killer, who is a character that he plays on television. And then when Charlie Brewster finds out that a vampire has moved in next door, they recruit Peter Vincent to try to help them kill a real vampire in real life. So that is really what Fright Night is all about. Vampire next door. We're trying to prove that he's actually a vampire, and all of the typical elements of vampire lore, like garlic and use of a crucifix, use of holy water, of course exposing them to the light, just all of the wonderful elements that go into a good vampire tale. They don't cast a reflection. So all of that is played up really, really nicely in this very fun film from the 1980s. And I gotta just make a comment here about this title here, which I was really happy with this release from Sony overall. And overall, I have been really impressed with so many of these titles that have come out that are titles from the 80s, recently restored in 4K Ultra HD. So you have Fright Night, which I'll talk about the picture quality of this in just a second, but I was very happy with this overall edition here. But the picture quality on a title like The Lost Boys, this is a first time watch for me, absolutely top notch. Very happy with this picture quality. I was very happy with the picture quality for Poltergeist. I mean, this looked amazing in 4K. And then, of course, my first Vinegar Syndrome title that I was very happy to pick up, that I'm going to be doing a review on this channel on very soon, is of the Amityville Horror, this 4K release from Vinegar Syndrome. So they have been knocking it out of the park. These studios have been crushing it with all of these nice restorations of these classic 80s horror films. Now, Amityville Horror is from 1979, but I'm going to pretty much count it as a 80s horror flick. They have done such an amazing job of restoring these films in 4K and presenting them, in most cases, with Dolby Vision HDR, and just giving us some presentations that are just out of sight. I mean, it just brings the world of the 1980s, just back to life in a beautiful, rich, organic, crystal clear presentation that is just a pleasure to see. Night is no exception to that. From a quality standpoint, you're wondering how good does this look on 4K? I can very confidently tell you that this picture looks great on 4K Ultra HD. I mean, of course, you get in this edition a 4K Blu-ray, which I dropped a few minutes ago. You also get two Blu-rays. One Blu-ray has the film and the special features, and then you have another Blu-ray disc that has features. But going back to the picture quality, I'm kind of bouncing around here, I'm sorry. But the picture quality of this 4K disc is absolutely top-notch, phenomenal. I just simply cannot say enough good things about it. This is a film from 1985, so it's roughly 37 years old, You don't at all mistake this for a brand new film by any stretch of the imagination, but this film looks super clean. There's beautiful definition. The HDR does a really nice job of just, I mean, this picture just looks so clean and rich and organic. And there are certain shots from this movie, particularly some of the shots in the dark, that are eye-poppingly beautiful. Like one shot where Roddy McDowall's character, Peter Vincent, is driving up to Charlie and Amy, and it's, sort of dark out. The street is lit up a little bit with street lights, and you see the headlamps from the car and the cars coming up. The picture just looks so incredibly real and almost as if you're right there. You can reach out and touch the people on the screen. I mean, there's so much beautiful organic, there's just a beautifully organic feel to the image, and there's a sense of three-dimensionality to the image is probably the best way I can describe it. I mean, the way the characters just almost pop off the screen in certain sequences. But overall, this is a very strong presentation, and it's just another example of the great job that Sony does with their 4K titles. I mean, this is another example of that. It sounds great as well. You get a 7.1 DTS HD master audio sound, and it sounds great, but the picture quality is really the standout on this 4K Ultra HD disc. As far as the special features, you'll see here on the J card, hopefully you can read this J card, you get some really nice special features on this edition. I believe, now I don't have Fright Night on previous Blu-ray or DVD editions. This is my first time owning this film on physical. So I'm very happy to have this film that I've enjoyed from the time I was young. I just enjoyed this film, but I haven't seen it in like at least 10 to 15 years. So revisiting this film after so long and seeing it look as good as this film looks, I was so incredibly pleased to see this movie that, I've probably seen old broadcasts, broadcasts of this movie, on HBO or whatever. But this is the best that I've ever seen this film. It looks fantastic, and it just brings that whole 1980s, vibe to life in beautiful, rich, organic 4K. And it just does a really nice job. And that's why I really have enjoyed these 1980s, 80s films being restored in 4K and just bringing the 1980s, back to life for us, and just seeing those old, those old brands, displayed in the product placements. It almost feels like a Stranger Things vibe because that's of the same period. But I really, really enjoyed, Fright Night, and I've enjoyed all of these films that I've seen. I've seen all of these films so far, and I can definitely recommend all of these. And I have not done reviews of these. I do plan to do a review of this on the channel, Amityville Horror 4K from Vinegar Syndrome. But tonight, it's all about Fright Night. And I am here to say that this is definitely an edition worth picking up. Now, let me check out some of your comments as I have rambled on here. I apologize. I hope you've picked up on the idea that I really like this edition from Criterion. And this is a film, not Criterion, from Sony. What am I talking about? From Sony. And it's just fantastic. But let me just take a look at your comments here. Of course, Adrian said hello earlier. Larry Gilmore, the Lost Boys restoration is so good. It was made at the most 5 years ago. It's gorgeous. Poltergeist, Amityville Horror, and Fright Night are fantastic as well. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, it's just like I said, I have been very happy to see these 80s-esque, films. Of course, as I said before, Amityville is technically 1979, but it's basically of the 80s. Just seeing that period being beautifully restored, and in each case, I believe they did a great job of maintaining the intended look of each of the films. So they don't do any kind of over sharpening or any kind of, crazy thing with, digital noise reduction or anything like that. They maintain the integrity of the image, but they clean it up beautifully. You know, beautiful 4K scans and transfers and just beautiful restoration work that presents beautifully clean images without any blemishes at all. And it just pops. I mean, the characters just look vibrant. The skin tones look great. In each case, there's a lot of great definition. The colors look really nice. They're not, over saturated. They just look really natural. And it's just a clean, detailed, sharp, rich, organic looking image that I can definitely appreciate. I was really blown away by how the dark scenes, there's a lot of dark scenes in this film, in Fright Night. Of course, you're dealing with a vampire. So a lot of the activities happening at night. And the detail in the shadows and just the definition all the way around, the presentation of this, even in those darker scenes, looks absolutely phenomenal. I mean, this disc is a knockout, and Sony has delivered once again, I must say. And I agree with you, Larry, on the Lost Boys looking absolutely fantastic. Poltergeist looked fantastic. That scene where she's approaching the TV and those blinding lights, you have to be careful about that because of people that may be sensitive to that. So definitely be careful. We have KB in the house. Hey, KB, can't wait to get into my copy of Fright Night. Yeah, it is definitely well worth checking out, especially if you are like me and you've enjoyed watching this film. I've seen this film a number of times when I was younger, but I hadn't seen it in a long time. And this is the best way to experience this movie. It is phenomenal. Tony from Basement Blues, thank you for joining. Hey, how are you doing? And Lost Boys looked and sounded great. I loved the release. I did too, Tony. I mean, it is absolutely a phenomenal release. Now, Fright Night, let me talk for a second about the special features. Of course, there's several features that you get on this disc, and a lot of the features deal with, of course, learning a lot more about Tom Holland, the filmmaker, and how this film came to life. There's actually, several hours of features on this, in this package. And there's a feature that's called What is Fright Night, which is Tom Holland, writing horror is another feature. You also get a feature with Roddy McDowall from Apes to Bats. Tom Holland and Amanda Bierce talk Fright Night. So you have Tom Holland, the director, and Amanda Bierce, who played Amy, Charlie Brewster's girlfriend. They talk about Fright Night. You have a round table with Tom, Stephen, and William. And then Shock Till You Drop presents deep choice cuts with Tom Holland and Ryan Turk. So there's a lot of Tom Holland features in here. So you learn a lot more about Tom Holland, the filmmaker, which was great because I had not even heard of him before. So I've heard of the other Tom Holland, Spider-Man, but this is Tom Holland, the director of Fright Night. So was very happy to learn more about that. But overall, this is a really nice package. The film looks great, it sounds great, and you get a ton of special features that tell you a lot more about Tom Holland. Of course, you also hear, Roddy McDowall, who of course is no longer with us, but there's some older interviews with him on there. Roddy McDowall plays, of course, Peter Vincent, the great vampire killer. And I love the comedic aspect of that character in this film. And I really appreciated that. Of course, you also hear from Chris Sarandon, who played Jerry the Vampire. You hear from William Ragsdale, Stephen Jeffries, who played Evil Ed, as well as Amanda Bierce. So you get a lot of archival interviews from them, as well as more recent interviews, which sharing their perspective and their experiences working on this film, and just the dedication and the love that they all brought to this production. It definitely comes through. KB says, I'm in the same situation, James. I used to watch Fright Night and The Lost Boys almost weekly as a teen. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I can't even tell you the number of times I've seen Fright Night. Now, interestingly enough, so that's something we have in common, but interestingly enough, when I picked this up, this was my first time seeing this film. So I had never seen Lost Boys before, nor had I seen Poltergeist. So these are both first watches for me. And I absolutely loved both of them. I can't say that I love this film at a I can't say that Lost Boys is like high on my list. I think Fright Night is a little bit higher for me, but I definitely enjoyed it. But I think I loved it more for just how good it looked on this 4K disc. It looks phenomenal. Same thing with Poltergeist. I was fairly entertained by Poltergeist, yeah, especially in the second half of this film. But it just looks so great on this 4K disc. They both did. So I was very happy about that. And of course, I was also happy to see that this looks amazing on 4K and revisiting the wonderful, creepy music of this film is, ooh, just sort of sends chills up your spine. Howdy, Eddie. Good to see you. I'm looking forward to being on your watch along stream, watching Psycho on Monday night. So watching one of my favorite films of all time with Eddie and Haley on Monday night. So that should be fun. And let's see here, picked this up on release day. Love the film and love the steelbook. Even the remake is great with Colin Farrell. Yeah, I saw. So the remake stars Colin Farrell and who else? There was someone else who is Colin Farrell, and somebody put in the comment section who the other co-star of the sequel is, but I have not seen it. So even the remake is great, awesome. Yeah, I believe Colin Farrell is the vampire in the remake, but I'm trying to remember who plays the kid. So let me share my screen real quick, and I will show you what IMDb has. If it lets me share my screen, is it going to let me share my screen? Oh, present, share screen. Fright Night. All right, so you should be seeing my screen here. This is, of course, Fright Night. Came out in 1985, and this is, of course, rated R, an hour 46 minutes. That's another aspect of this film that I can appreciate. It's not too long. And of course, it's fantasy horror. And that is an element that you'll hear about in the special features. So this film came out in 1985. And so to sort of appreciate what this film is in relation to other horror films of the same period, this was a period that we were getting a lot of course, slasher type films, like, of course, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween. So you have those slasher type movies. And what Tom Holland wanted to do in this particular film, Fright Night, is sort of go back to that classic horror, type of a film and bring in that fantasy element, present a vampire in a classic, in a classic horror context. So that's definitely something he wanted to do, was go back to traditional horror, versus slasher horror. So a teenager discovers that the newcomer in his neighborhood is a vampire, so he turns to an actor in a television horror show for help dealing with the undead. So of course, you see here, this is Chris Sarandon, who played Jerry, and this is Roddy McDowall, who played Peter Vincent, the great vampire killer. You see Jerry seducing Amy here in the nightclub, one of the really cool scenes of this film. You see Stephen Jeffries' character, Evil Ed here, when that scene where Peter Vincent burns the crucifix on his head. Of course, this is Charlie Brewster's one of his friends who was turned into a vampire by Jerry in the movie. So I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, this is just one of those movies that I highly, highly recommend. Of course, Tom Holland was the director. You had Chris Sarandon here, if I can pull the cast. Chris Sarandon played Jerry Dandridge, who was the vampire. William Ragsdale played Charlie Brewster, who was the kid next door. You have Amanda Bierce, who played Amy Peterson, who was the girlfriend. Roddy McDowall played Peter Vincent. Stephen Jeffries played Evil Ed. You had Dorothy Fielding, who played Charlie Brewster's mother, Judy Brewster, in this film. And those were the principal characters in this movie. Just an absolutely fun time. And just one of those, it's just one of those, guilty pleasures that I enjoyed watching when I was younger. But let me see if there's any other comments here. Hey, we got Mel from My Killer Podcast. Hey, Mel, how are you doing? I'm doing great. Hope you are doing well as well. Anton, yeah, oh, yes, that's right. Anton Yelchin, who of course, yes, rest in peace. That was such a tragedy how he passed away. But yes, he also played in Star Trek. Charlie Brewster from Jim Powers. Jim, Mel saying hi to Jim. Jim saying hi to Mel. And Adrian saying hey to Mel. Everybody saying hey to everybody following you. LOL. Honestly, can't think who played Jerry better, Chris or Colin. Both were incredibly charismatic and creepy. Chris has the benefit of it being filmed in the 80s, which has a built-in creep factor. Okay, cool. Yeah, I have not seen the remake of Fright Night, but hearing that it's really good definitely makes me want to check it out. But I really enjoyed this. Seeing this again is an absolute treat for someone who remembers seeing this as a kid. Seeing this on this 4K disc was kind of a revelation to me because it never looked as good as it looks on this 4K disc in what I've seen before. I can definitely tell you that, and it just brings fresh new life to this film. I mean, this film feels, you don't mistake this for a film that was made within the last few years, but it definitely doesn't look like a nearly 40-year-old film either. I mean, it just looks absolutely fantastic, and it just brings the 80s back to life in a beautifully organic way. So I really think that Sony did a knockout job with this presentation. Oh, you are so cool, Brewster. Yes, I love that line. Love that line. Love the movie. Can't wait to watch the 4K. Heard it's great transfer. It is. Double thumbs up. I mean, the transfer, I don't know how this would rank amongst other, and it's kind of hard to compare. Okay, how does it compare to these other films here? All I can basically say is that they're all terrific. I mean, if you're wondering, how do these transfers look on these films? They all look fantastic. They look amazing. They look impeccable. They're clean and just, they all do a great job of bringing the 80s, back to life in a fantastic way. I just simply cannot say enough about how good all of these 4K transfers look on these films. Fright Night in 4K, The Lost Boys in 4K, Poltergeist and the Amityville Horror. Just beautiful work by all these studios, and I'm very happy that my first Vinegar Syndrome title is as awesome as it is. So I'm looking forward to more. Which Tom Holland film do you prefer, Child's Play or Fright Night? Well, I have not seen, I was just saying earlier, I have not seen Child's Play yet. That is a franchise I have not gotten into yet, but I'm looking forward to getting into it. So, eventually I will have to check out Child's Play. Adrian says I would love to upgrade to 4K. Definitely do it, Adrian. Definitely do it. I mean, it's titles like these that I think make it worth the leap, because you really get to appreciate, how nice these pictures look. I mean, these are films that, for those of us who watched, Fright Night as a kid or watched Lost Boys or Poltergeist, I mean, it just brings them to life, in a fantastic way. So simply cannot say enough about Fright Night. The film is a absolute hoot to watch. It is a film that has, nice comedic elements to it. It doesn't take itself too seriously, and I really appreciate that aspect of it. And it's just a fun vampire movie, and it looks great on this 4K disc. The sound is absolutely great, and the special features do a really nice job of, telling you a lot more about Tom Holland, the director, and has some nice contributions from all the principal players in this film, all the actors, and you just learn a lot more about the production of Fright Night, and you do pick up on some of the special effects in terms of the creature, horror makeup aspect of things and how they did that work. And overall, this is a really strong release that I highly, highly recommend. And of course, I'll do a quick commercial here. If you haven't seen this film here, I did a review recently on the channel for Watcher, starring Micah Monroe, who of course played in It Follows, one of my favorite horror films of the last 10 years. And here she's playing Watcher, and this is a really, really good film that I really enjoyed. I saw this on the shelf of Best Buy this past Tuesday, and I had never even heard of this movie, or it wasn't on my radar at all. And I just looked it up on IMDb, and I just go ahead and pick it up, and I did. This is a nice, nice movie. It's from director Chloe Okuno, and I believe this is her first feature film. So definitely keep an eye out for that filmmaker. I think she did a really nice job on this movie. And this particular Blu-ray edition only has, as far as special features, an audio commentary. But the audio commentary is so good on this Blu-ray disc. I mean, it features the director, Chloe Okuno, and the editor. And it's just those two young filmmakers talking about everything that went into making this film, how they did the visual effects of this movie, and just how they were able to navigate making this film in a COVID environment when they were shooting it in 2020 and 2021. So definitely recommend checking out Watcher for sure. And of course, I have some other, these are 3 more 4K titles that I need to watch. Let me know in the comments section which one of these I should watch next. Should I watch Scream 2 next? Should I watch Friday the 13th next? Or should I watch I Know What You Did Last Summer next? Let me know in the comments section which one of these you think I should watch next. But let me get a few more comments here. I've heard Carrie is coming to 4K. It is. It's coming, I believe, in December. And I am very excited about that because that's one of my favorite, that's probably in my top 5 favorite horror films of all time from Brian De Palma. Oh, need to see Watcher. Yes, I highly recommend it. It's really good. It's really good. And you know what's interesting, and they talk about this in the commentary. This is a visual effects heavy movie, you know, and you get to appreciate that more when you read the when you hear the commentary and hear them talk about it. A lot of visual effects. Newer films are never a selling point for 4K to me. It's the older films that get these incredible 4K restorations that does it for me. It gives them new life. Yeah, I agree. I agree. In the case of these 80s films, I mean, it is just awesome seeing these films look that good. Loved Watcher is fantastic. Saw it in theaters and it absolutely blown away. Yeah, I agree. It's really good. Keep a watch out for the director of Watcher. I agree. Yeah, Chloe Okuno. Mel saying, I am going to have to check out Watcher. Been hearing a lot about it lately. Yeah, I definitely recommend it for sure. Absolutely. Thank you, Eddie. Thank you, Eddie, for that super chat there. Can't wait to watch Psycho with you, James. I'm looking forward to it too. Psycho is one of my top 5 favorite films. Well, I'm sorry, favorite horror titles of all time. It's in my top 25 favorite movies of all time, which I'm going to provide an update on that on this channel here pretty soon. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Fright Night. I was going to keep this short and sweet tonight, folks. I know I rambled on a little bit, but I really enjoyed this movie, enjoyed seeing it again. This is a title. This is one of those horror films that I've seen back in the day that I really enjoyed back in the day. And so I was really excited to see this film that I have not seen in a long time on 4K. And I have to say, it does not disappoint. Sony absolutely delivers a knockout 4K presentation. Beautiful detail. There's beautiful depth in the image. You have the characters. It's not a flat presentation. The characters really sort of stand out. There's good separation between the elements in the foreground and the background. There's a lot of nice definition going on in this image. And there are certain shots where the HDR really shines through and just gives you a sense of 3-dimensionality in the image in certain shots. And with all the dark scenes that are in this film, I just think they did a really nice job of presenting the image in a way where, the blacks don't get crushed at all. You just have nice, detail even in the shadows, in those darker scenes. So the presentation is just a knockout on this 4K disc, and the audio is really nice, and you get a nice bevy of special features on this title. So if you have not seen Fright Night and you are up for a nice vampire movie with a little bit of comedic elements in there and some fun characters, and just want something fun to watch and have fun with, definitely recommend Fright Night on 4K. So yeah, that's my review of Fright Night on 4K. I simply cannot recommend it enough. And I've got this month is of course horror month. 31 days of horror, and what I'm doing is a lot of horror content on this channel. And as I'm putting that horror content out, I've got a playlist on my channel called 31 Days of Horror Playlist. So definitely check that out, because that's where I'm putting videos like this stream and other reviews that I've done in the horror space. I'm putting it in a 31 Days of Horror playlist. So definitely check that out. I've got a review of Amityville Horror 4K coming out very soon. This is another film that I've seen back in the day that I was looking forward to seeing on this new Vinegar Syndrome release. This is my first Vinegar Syndrome title, y'all. My first foray into the syndrome. I am officially in Vinegar Syndrome. Let me know in the comment section if y'all have a recommendation of what title should I get next from Vinegar Syndrome. But I started out with Amityville Horror. I'm doing a review of this on the channel very soon, so look for that. Also, Criterion is releasing Lost Highway on 4K this week, and I'm going to be in a conference this week, so I'm going to be sort of not able to put that review out as early as I would like, but I plan to put that review of the Lost Highway 4K out next weekend on this channel, so definitely be on the lookout for that. And then shortly after that, we should be getting Criterion Collection's announcement of their January 2023 titles. So these are the titles that are coming out in January of 2023. We should get that announcement probably in about a week or so. So I'm planning a live stream for that very soon. You'll be hearing about that this coming week. And this time I've got a couple of guests joining me. I had a guest, Celeste de la Cabra, join me a few months ago. I've got some guests coming up for this upcoming stream, so definitely be on the lookout for that. That's coming out in just over a week, so that's coming soon. And then I'm gonna give you my updated top 25 favorite films of all time, my personal top 25 favorite films of all time. Gonna be updating that list very soon in a video. So I did a series on that 2 years ago in 2020, in the early days of this channel, where I told you my top 25 favorite films. That has now been updated because I've got some films that have now entered my top 25 favorites, which means that some films are sort of falling down the list a little bit. They're still some of my favorite films, but they're no longer in the top 25. So I'll share with you those details pretty soon. I'm also doing a review of Cure, the Criterion Collection title coming out on the 18th. That's another horror film, a Japanese horror film. So be on the lookout for that. And then, of course, this Monday, as I said before, Eddie's channel, Fans of Something, Eddie and Haley, I am watching Psycho with them on their channel on Monday night. Looking forward to it. And to me, that is just one of those films that I don't believe that there's a such thing as a perfect film, but Psycho to me is as close as there is to a perfect film. So I love that movie, and I'm so glad that, I think that was Google Assistant talking to me. I'm sorry. So anyway, I'm really happy, Eddie, that you chose Psycho for the watch along. So I'm looking forward to that. So Jim Powers, good hanging with you, James. Thank you. Thank you, Jim, for hanging out. Thank you, Mel, I appreciate that. See you Monday. Thank you, Eddie. Roadhouse will be okay. Roadhouse, okay. I'll definitely have to check that one out. Is that the one starring Patrick Swayze? Okay, I think it may be. I'll have to check that one out. Roadhouse and Texas Chainsaw 2. Okay. Pre-order those. Okay. Good call on TCM2, Jim. Okay. Can't wait for that. Texas Chainsaw 2. Yep. Whatever happened to Shout Factory's Fargo 4K? It was scheduled for summer 2022. I am not sure. I am not sure. I'll have to look into that. But yeah, so again, that's my review of Fright Night on 4K. It's highly recommended, of course, as well as these other 4K releases that I've recently watched. So I can recommend all of these. But I really do appreciate y'all joining tonight. Hope that y'all have a great Sunday. If you're into NFL football or whatever you're into, definitely have a great Sunday. But let's just keep this wonderful train going of 31 days of horror. So a lot of great horror titles to continue to watch. I've got to crack these bad boys open here. I got to decide which one I'm going to go for first. I may go for Friday the 13th next. I don't know. Or I may do Scream 2. Or I don't know. I may do I Know What You Did Last Summer. Anyway, I'm going to watch one of these next very soon. And I hope that you all have a great night. I appreciate y'all joining. Have a great rest of your Saturday night. Have an awesome Sunday and the rest of your weekend. And let's keep the 31 days of horror train going. I'm excited about the content coming out on this channel, as well as the great content from all the other BlueTuber channels out there. There's a lot of great stuff going on this month. Looking forward to it all. And we'll be talking to you soon. Peace.